My guest today is Kade Brown, a jazz pianist and teacher from Melbourne, Australia. Kade is actually a childhood friend of mine. We grew up together, talking about drinking milk on the school bus home, as well as furiously playing Halo Combat Evolved on the Xbox. I watched him quite jealously, if I'm going to be honest, as he became just an absolutely incredible musician, far better than I ever could be, playing all over Australia as well as Europe. What has always struck me about Kade is the fact that he's always been very relatable and very down to earth. So I was really excited to sit down and have a chat with him about this. Expect to learn great mindset shifts and analogies like comparing your creative practice to tending a field. Learn about Kade's weird piano meditation and many more things. Enjoy. Unfortunately, like I said, you are a bit of a guinea pig being the third person.
That's right.
You're the third person I've ever talked to.
I'm not.
Kade Brown.
Yeah, that's how we got to think about this.
Yeah. I'm literally like a baby learning to walk right now. Oh, man. Okay, Kade, thank you for coming and wanting to have a chat with me, little old me, about stuff that I don't really understand. And I don't know if anyone does, but we're on a quest to find out.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's a very special treat. What an honor. I don't know what's going on either. I don't know anything about any of this stuff, but I'm excited to maybe figure out together at least one point that maybe we can find something interesting to talk about.
I'm interested to talk to you because you're a bit different from the people that I'm sort of intending to speak to, because you're like the best pianist I've ever met. Jazz pianist, like for real, man. Like you're incredible, and you've already come up in an episode on this podcast. When I was speaking to Zach, we were talking about the moment where, I don't know if you remember, you came in and you did a solo on one of his tracks for his recital as well as the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were just talking about how blasé you were about it, because I remember, especially to my like drummer brain, I was like, I don't understand how it's possible for you to. Yeah, it was amazing. But I was like, I don't understand how it's possible for you to solo over these changes. And you were just like, you just pulled up like the chord chart and you were like, oh yeah. Okay.
Probably being a bit unceremonious about it a bit, maybe too.
Nah, but I think that just shows to me, it always comes across as you're just comfortable.
I remember that. I would have probably still been in uni, I reckon, at jazz school, doing heaps of other people's tunes, soloing on all kinds of cracked stuff. Yeah.
Well,
I remember that.
The first thing I want to ask you, just for the sake of the audience, I guess, is from your perspective, what makes you interesting as a creative person, as an artist?
This is the one. This is the one question, because you sent me the questions before, just so I could have a little bit of a warning about what was going to happen. That was the one that I found the hardest to answer. Actually, I mean, look, I don't really know. I guess that's for other people to decide. But in terms of the kind of music that I create, like my creative side, which is sort of, I do a lot of most of what I do is I work in other people's bands and play in my way other people's music. So in that capacity, I guess playing in my way probably has a certain sort of appeal to it that people like, and I guess like most of my stuff is jazz, right? And I reckon, if I was to paint a picture of my sort of approach creatively, it's probably kind of a blend of a kind of, I wouldn't say reckless, but sort of an exploratory kind of childlike kind of approach to traditional forms. I mean, look, I guess half of what I do is probably pretty much very traditional jazz piano, entrenched in the tradition, and trying to respect and uphold the the deep jazz piano tradition as much as I can, but also try to thoughtfully kind of put my own kind of discipline behind it, which sometimes works well, sometimes it doesn't, and over the last 12 years in Melbourne, I've definitely found my playing style suitable for some people and unsuitable for others. Some projects it's too wild, some projects it's too jazzy. It can be one or the other. So yeah, I mean, for me, I guess I might, like, when I make my music, it's different because it's like I don't have to be worried about that. I can just make my own music, and I can choose any kind of creative palette that I think of, which is really fun. And the music that often comes out is probably erring more towards the side, like sort of cerebral, harmonically complex kind of side of modern jazz piano, sort of traditional stuff. Like a bit more. A bit more dissonant. It's always kind of wonky. It's sort of distorted. It's kind of like I'm always trying to push through sort of conventions to try to find new things. There's a sort of searchingness about it. So that's what it ends up coming out like. I don't always intend it to be like that way, but it often does come out that way. Yeah, maybe that's a bit of an insight to that. Yeah.
I really like that, man. It's like you've already touched on so many things that, like, I'm fascinated about in general about being a creative person, making anything. I don't care what the medium is or the format, but it's just, you're talking about exploring, and you actually use a specific word, childlike. And what's already come up for me a couple of times in talking to people is this concept of play. Like, it's so interesting to me because I see, and this is what I want to explore so many things with me. I don't know where to start, man. So many places we could go. But
yeah.
I guess maybe the first place I want to start in there is the divide between working for somebody, sort of to fit their creative vision, which you said you play other people's music your way, which is a really interesting thing. And then obviously when you get to be unleashed to do whatever comes to mind, you can push these boundaries. And I want to understand, or explore rather, what the difference is for you, if any. Maybe I can pose it to you as like a question of extremes, like something a bit more black and white. Like if you could choose, if you only had to live with one side of that equation, which one would you be happy living with? Like if you could never make your own music ever again and you always had to work for people, would that be okay for you as an artist?
Yeah, I think. I mean, there's something. I mean, when I was younger, I was always probably a little bit like anti-authority with like the kind of, if you want me to play in your bed, I'm going to sound like me, and I'm gonna. And then as I got older, I didn't really realize the value, I don't think, when I was younger, in actually, like just listening and playing a role, and like understanding the humility of that, and being a part of a community where everybody's in a happy musical ecosystem where we can all do our jobs together, and we're all, I don't have to be playing anything fancy or groundbreaking, for it to be good, and actually it's better because then I'm a part of a happier community of people in the long run. Whereas, when I was younger, trying to sort of save the world with my groundbreaking piano ideas, as much of a fun, like intellectual kind of and musical sort of odyssey that is. It is ultimately just like it's a bit more of an internal kind of solo journey, and you don't have so much of that community. You have like like-minded people and fellow travelers who are happy to go on with you in these these crazy musical odysseys with you and your huge ideas. And that's a huge part of what I enjoy too. But yeah, there's something to be said for just like I think for musicians sort of for just sort of like really trying to play with big ears and open ears and just try to play the job, play your role, which is actually infinitely harder than it seems, or seemed to me at the start of starting to play more like that,
Yeah.
It's almost like I was listening to, I was talking to my friend Tim about this the other day, or someone, and we were talking about, you think you kind of, we were talking about Cuban music, and I've got this new project, a few years old now, which is like I love Cuban music. I love Cuban piano, especially like Ruben Gonzalez and Puerto Rican sort of pop songs from the 50s and Puerto Rican music and the rhythm of it and the energy of it. But I don't really know how it works. There's such a huge tradition. There's so much rhythmic knowledge and like cultural stuff behind it that I have no idea about, But I do love the sound, so I do my own sort of like interpretation of it. But and then you were talking about the difference between like a cha-cha and a cumbia, which to me sounds pretty much the same, as a newcomer. And then you learn one cha-cha really well, and then someone comes along who knows what they're doing and they start playing it in a cumbia style, and then you really notice the difference, right? Because you've already you understand the only way that I know how to play, I understand it really well, and then you notice like the elephant in the room when someone turns it into a cumbia. Now it sounds completely different, whereas before it didn't. I guess I don't know how I got onto that, but I think that there's something to be said for. Well, you just never. My point is, you never know. You never know. You're always gonna. If you think something's like approachable and easy, just playing a role in a band, like you're gonna be surprised at how hard it is. You can never get comfortable here, can you? It's always like you never know everything. Yeah.
Well, I suppose if you know everything, then it stops being exploration. You stop finding new horizons.
I think for some reason there's like an automatic sort of disposition to sort of go, well, like I never thought that I liked playing country music when I was younger. Didn't think that I liked it because I didn't think there was much to it. It wasn't until I started doing it that I realized that it's actually so profoundly nuanced and beautiful in its way, Sort of like that. There's an immediate disposition of sort of not quite fully appreciating the complexity of what your sort of role in music is until you actually start doing it. So you've got to be careful of that, I reckon,
It's so interesting because you said at the top of all that, you said that you felt at the beginning of your, when you started music uni. This sort of makes sense as well, because I feel like that sort of happened to me too, going through music uni. You sort of learn a bunch of stuff and you're like, dude, I'm sick. Like I could do this thing that no one else could do. This is my signature thing. Like I'm going to do it everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, that doesn't work in this pop context or this blues context. Like just chill out. And what you're talking about is humility. And it's a wonderful thing because, and I've struggled with this a lot, especially going from predominantly being a session drummer, playing for other people, playing for my own music, to being a producer, making stuff. Because it's like, I'm thrown into a world that is adjacent to what I understand, but it's completely different now. It's like now I'm composing and I'm songwriting and I'm doing sound design and I'm like writing parts for other instruments that I actually don't know how to play. And as you, in reference when you're talking about kumbaya and cha-cha-cha, it's like I don't understand the nuance of these instruments. And I was getting very, very frustrated with myself because, coming from a part of, I had my little area in music where I felt comfortable, and all of a sudden now I was thrust in this new world where I frankly didn't know anything. I didn't understand what I was doing, and I constantly felt inadequate, I guess is the best way to put it. But as I've since gone through that journey, I've learned how to become just a little bit more humble and being like, it's actually okay to not know at all what you're doing as long as you're willing to listen, pay attention, study it, analyze it, learn from it. that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's something to be said because I reckon there's a sort of because at the end of the day it's all just music. It's gonna be cool. My when I played this Cuban gig, right, with this, I had this guy come in to play drums for one gig, and he's like a wizard at this stuff, right? He knows all of the patterns, he knows all the styles, he knows his stuff, right? And after the gig, I was sort of, he knew, I told him it was going to be a bit aloof, and then afterwards, like, man, I'd love to know more about like, what I should be doing in these different styles for this particular feel. What's the difference between those grooves and these grooves? And he was sort of like, yeah, you could do that, but also like, don't worry about it. Like, it sounds cool. Like, it sounds great. It doesn't sound exactly like you're probably not doing the exact same thing that, my buddy does on, Sunday nights at the, at the actual Cuban session or whatever. But it sounds great. Like but it's the thing that's left with yourself is like this kind of desire to like, I feel like I should go and learn more about it, which I do want to do. There's always got to be that. I think it's when you start getting complacent and you just start playing really derivative kind of styles that you're not really interested in. Like actually, maybe you've ripped the parachutes kind of closed a little bit. Then that's when it starts to get a bit stuck. Even then, that's fine too. You don't have to be constantly learning the new stuff all the time. You can definitely. I mean, that's one of my big points when I with my students is talking about having. I always thought about it when I was going through big phases of learning new sort of stuff, and thinking about like a field where I'm sort of putting out a fence further and further, gaining more ground, more knowledge. But then after a while, if you just keep doing that, you're not actually playing much music, really. You're not engaging with the music. You're not enjoying your field, So sometimes it's good to just not put the fence out any further and just enjoy running around in your field and doing some stuff in this awesome field that you've got, this big field now. And then after a while, you get to know your field too well, and you want to put some more posts out. And I reckon there's been a few times in my life where I've like tried to like I've got stuck. I've got uninspired because I'm just feel like I'm just learning stuff and not really trying to, help make it assimilate into my playing, and then vice versa. Like I feel like I've just used up all my ideas and I need an injection of some fresh ideas. And so, so that comes in waves. I reckon at the moment I'm just getting a little, just recently, last year or so, getting a little bit bored of my sort of practice hygiene and patterns and the things that I'm doing. I need some new stuff soon. I reckon it's coming soon. I can feel it.
I would be fascinated to know what expanding your field looks like, because like there's so much Kade Brown lore in our circles where like we have common friends and stuff like that, where like I saw a friend of ours, Mitch, this was a while ago, and he was telling me how you picked him up in your car and you were listening to like, I don't know, it was like 17th 18th century basic only harpsichord like music. And it was just like,
I had a huge like pre-Bach harpsichord, Italian harpsichord composer phase. I remember. I love that stuff. I've been looking for more of that sort of stuff lately, actually.
Like most people are going to be chucking manies with like some like hip hop trap like seeping out of the speakers or something.
I mean, that's also sick. But my thing is like I reckon Michelangelo Rossi is equally as sick and equally as gangster. Michelangelo Rossi, check it out. He was born 50. He was writing music like 50 years before Bach was written, and it was kind of like I was talking to Joe Kendama about it. He was like, it's kind of before functional harmony kind of existed, and like he's sort of playing with these weird ideas, like trying to like do these strange harmonic movements, but none of that stuff had actually quite happened yet in Western music. So it sounds bizarre, really. It sounds bizarre, and kind of turned functional harmony on its head a little bit. It sounds kind of alien, but it's pre-bar. Anyway, that's the whole thing. But yeah. No, I'm ready for. I reckon the next thing probably for me is like, it's lots of different plants to water, so to speak. You need to have like a bit more of the Cuban stuff, bit more of the kind of country roots Americana music stuff, and then more some more jazz improvising concept stuff, and work on my solo piano playing, like when I'm playing by myself, and expanding my, just trying to feel like I've got more devices to be able to play with to keep me interested at the instrument, keep it fresh.
Interesting. You said something about plants to water, and I think that's a fascinating. Man, I actually love your analogies for this, especially the field analogy. I've never thought about it like that before. You are claiming new territory, exploring, making it known. I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah, the plants to water is a good one too, I reckon, because it's like I'll often feel like I've let certain things, so it feels like a plant that's like you haven't watered for ages. It's like, whoa, man, this is not feeling so good. Even playing like when you don't play like you play like a blues in like B or something. It's like, oh man, I have not played my B pentatonic scale on the piano for a while, or even just things like, when do we, how often do we remember when we're sitting down to practice to like, oh, I better start practicing like a simple, like medium tempo waltz, like for a country, for like a Willie Nelson sort of thing, or like I'm always trying to overcomplicate things, like oh, I've got to practice stuff, practice in 5 and doing my odd complicated, scales and stuff, and improvising in weird modes and stuff like that. But often you'll forget to do the simple stuff, which is often where I'll get caught out, like thinking I'm overconfident, thinking I can comfortably swing at like this weird sort of medium fast tempo, but in reality I haven't actually. It feels like a bit of a neglected, monstera in the corner that I haven't watered for a few many weeks. There's a few here.
Yeah, again, the water plants analogy is perfect, and you're talking about something that it sounds like you've successfully understood or learned how to navigate, right? That I actually did not learn how to navigate, and I'm still kind of struggling with as well, because, like I said, moving from drums. I mean, actually, let's isolate it to just drums for a second. Like, there's so many things behind just one instrument that you could be working on at any time. So many different things, from like specific techniques, specific like notation values, specific stylistic approaches, vocabulary, grooves, blah, 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 blah. And this just becomes exponentially like infinite. And for me personally, that felt extremely overwhelming, because I felt this pressure that I frankly placed on myself, that all the plants needed to be healthy 100% of the time. Otherwise, am I really valuable as a musician? And it's like, maybe it's like a hedge against entropy, let's say, because it's like, yeah, like it's fine. I haven't played blues for a little while. So when I play this, I haven't used it. So why would I don't particularly enjoy playing blues that much. So why would I sit there and practice?
Yeah.
It takes a
I guess there's a few there's like a few driving factors as to why we feel like we have to be so scrupulously across everything. And it's probably like, for me it's definitely there's like a fear factor to it, like a social anxiety to it, where I know I don't like that feeling of getting caught out on a gig and kind of diving. Like, I know I don't like that, so I'm trying to avoid that at all costs. And then there's also this kind of general kind of agitated, almost kind of anxious sort of musician's head state, which isn't. I don't think it's a bad thing. In fact, I think a lot of the best musicians I've ever come across are like quite. They've got a certain level of anxiety and high alert going on. And that's actually the thing that kind of enables them to be dedicated enough to put the work in, leading up to a gig, for example, where everyone has to know all the songs, super well, and there's an expectation there on that high level. It's the thing that kind of, you'll see those people in the studio all day, giving them as much time as possible, giving themselves like 3 weeks of practice time instead of, people who kind of run at a sort of lower anxiety level and kind of like go, it'll be fun, and leave it to the wind a bit. And they're the ones that always kind of don't get called next time, right? So I feel like I'm always trying to push myself to be more anxious, but there's layers to it. I try put the pressure on myself to kind of to practice and perform and care about it enough so that I do practice it. But then there's a level of that where it's like a self-protection thing that happens sometimes, where you go, well, look, I'm actually so anxious about this that I'm going to put it off, and I'm just going to say, oh no, look, I've been doing this for a while, should be fine. And then you kind of roast the gig a bit or whatever, and you kind of forgive yourself. But in reality, it's like, it's all about preparation, and using that kind of anxiety to your advantage is the best way to do it. It just takes a really long time to be able to kind of govern that. And I'll get it right, like maybe, these days, like 7 times out of 10. Whereas before, I would have the wrong tactic, probably, like 9 times out of 10 when I was younger, just too arrogant, as a young person would be, I don't beat myself up for it, but there's definitely a lot of knowledge in learning about the kind of the hard way that you don't like the feeling of bombing. You don't want to fail, but you have to do it. You have to mess it up. You have to mess it up to know that in the first place. It's just all part of the journey of it.
You said something really interesting just then to me, which is you're pushing to be more anxious. You're trying to push yourself to be more anxious. That's like, I don't think anyone's ever said that.
Because otherwise they'll just be too comfortable and nothing's going to get done. Right? It's like, no, okay, remember, you don't know those songs yet, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't, yeah.
But I think the accountability helps the growth.
You got to use it.
The accountability really helps the growth, knowing that there is a gig, there is a deadline, and there is the social component. Like, people are going to be looking at you, you're going to be playing with people. To be honest, it's usually less about the audience and more about the people you're actually playing with, because the music circles are small, they talk. And obviously, like, your sustainability.
And you want your career to grow.
Exactly.
Yeah, you want your career to grow, and you want people to have good things to say about you. You want to, and people are so judgmental. This is the thing, as an artist, not just musicians, but everybody. It's like it is so hard to be an artist at the moment, especially because we have this expectation to have everything in your instrument under control. So that you're able to rock up, and the first impression of when people hear you, be it when you're in the band or in the audience or whatever, but also how you, like how you look on Instagram, how you dress, how you, how late you are, how on time you are, how good you are at communicating over emails, how reliable you are, how much, if you've got another job or not, if you work or if you're full-time music, or if the way that you present yourself, the way that you talk, the way that you joke, this is all, it's like this business-minded thing of like, people are kind of hiring a sort of, you're appealing to all of those things. All of those things are under the microscope because there's that expectation on that, I feel like there's certain, I'm talking as a sort of session musician, someone who plays in other people's bands, I guess, I can't really talk really too, because I can't imagine the different levels of expectation and pressure that other people would have too if they're doing, like really high level classical orchestral stuff, or even just the pressure that you put on yourself if you've got your own project and you want it to look a certain way, but you want it to you want to put it to the wind a bit and let it just, blossom in its own way. You can only do so much, but there's all this. There's so many levels to it. It's hard stuff. You got to take it, take it easy. It's all good. Relax. Yeah.
But you're right. It can be. From what I remember, because I haven't considered myself a session musician for like half a decade at least, right? But kicking around the scene, the circles that I operated in, it did feel very gossipy, very high schooly. Even like, looking at my lecturers, like the people, our mentors who had a career in Melbourne doing this and that.
Totally.
They would sort of meh amongst each other, and it was just so strange to me, man. Like, I don't know.
It's very present. It's very present. And look, it's going to exist in any professional field, and you can subscribe to it. You don't have to as well. Like people will get turned off by it, and they do their own thing, and they might not be in the on the folk festival circuit, or you might be not be getting called for whatever the bustling music scene is in your area or your city or your country is, and like, a lot of my favorite musicians aren't those people that go to gigs and talk the talk, and I hate it too. It's like there's only so much of that you can delegate with yourself. If you had your own internal parliamentary system, that minister who looks after the kind of like how you show face and how you appear in the music biz, that guy's not getting that much funding. It's mainly the ministers about well-being and creative nutrition. That's where all my funding's going to. Maybe a little bit to that stuff, but I find it tough in some ways. That's why you got to find your people that you trust, and people that you don't feel like under pressure with.
100%. I think it's funny, like all this, like art really mirrors life. I mean, it's not divorceable from our actual experience, because art is to pen our actual experience as we go through the world. It makes me think of, am I losing the point? I've long been, like I said, moving into producing, I've been very concerned with, for a very long time, like, how can I make my output as consistently good as possible? Like, the ideas are inspired, they make people feel something, and that's a fool's errand. It's a fool's errand. And I think it's because people can kind of feel when you're trying too hard, right?
Yes.
And this kind of ties back to this. It's like, if you're putting on a front, you can kind of feel it if someone comes to a gig and wants to network just because they want to get the call instead of you, or they want you to call them for the next show or something like that. It's like, oh, hey, Kade, what's up, man? I heard you're a really great pianist. I know this guy, and I can do this and this. And it's just like, there's something about it where you go, nah, man, you're a bit slimy. And I believe this.
Well, it's not. The thing is, it's not. Yeah, I think the thing is maybe that you're talking about with what it is for me is that when I hear that sort of, when I'm approached in that situation, or when you find yourself in that situation, it's not speaking directly to your kind of, that's not speaking to my creative side, my inner sort of muse. That's not what I'm always trying to listen to. Like, and with like, I think with like we were talking about with being too careful and putting too much effort into one thing, making it perfect, versus putting lots of stuff out and not caring so much, and just quantity is more important. I reckon that is the kind of that's a worthy anxiety. Whereas I think the anxiety about how I looked when I talked to that guy after that festival is not a worthy anxiety. That's not talking to my muse. I think it's more important to deal with the kind of, it's like, well, maybe you know what, look, maybe I am putting too much effort into one song here, and I should be focusing more on just not caring so much and putting more output, getting more output. And then, like, that'll come around the other way eventually too. Like, you'll be putting heaps of stuff out, and then you're going to feel like, I'm not very well thought out. I should probably do it the other way now and put a bit more energy into one thing. I've been on both sides of that. That's the important stuff that you should do. I reckon that people get sort of hung up in, like, like a lot of this, like an unnamed famous Australian pop star, in the green room talking to another famous Australian pop star for 45 minutes in the green room, not a single sentence about music. It was just all about business, all about money, about managers, about people. It wasn't. This is the thing, is that there are people out there that have have constructed their entire careers with different things in mind. To me, I mean, I'm totally, everyone can do whatever they like. You know, if people want to make a hit and make a lot of money, that's cool. But I'm more interested in kind of choosing my battles so that I'm getting as much sort of nutrition from my music as possible. I don't want to end up kind of like where it's just sort of, you know, maybe a bit successful, but I don't really talk about music or something, and I don't think about music. That doesn't make sense to me, you know. I'd rather be poor and like play music all the time than be rich and like just play the same song like every day, you know.
Yeah, you're exactly right. What I'm most fascinated by is, well, because you're right, like it's, I think about it like this sometimes, you know, the best thing you've ever written, the thing that you're the most proud of, or the best solo you ever played, the best gig you've ever played, like do that again tomorrow. Okay, now do it again the next day. Now do it, like you're not going to. There's some sort of like roll of the dice that happens every time you sit in front of your instrument or every time you try to compose something. It's variable. And so caring about the outcome too much that's why I said it's a fool's errand, right? But I believe there is a formula to make it more likely that you're going to create something that is inspired meaningful, or has
people like.
Yeah, meaning, yeah. Not so much that other people like, but I really think it comes down to like just, you know, you said something just before. You said listening to your inner muse, and I really like this because it's really about following what I believe, and this is what I love to explore. It's like following what actually inspires you, what makes you passionate, what makes you feel something. But there's this weird kind of push and pull because obviously as artists, we're making stuff for ourselves. And you kind of have to, if you follow this like line of logic, this argument where like to make good stuff, to perform well, you need to be passionate about it. So it has to be about you. But then you share that with other people and it is for other people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. You're performing, you're releasing. And
well, something I find interesting is like often with when, you know, when I feel like I'm playing well and I'm connected to the instrument, I'm present and I'm playing music in a sort of functional and also satisfying and having fun way, you know, is often when I'm just listening. I'm listening to the music and I'm engaged with my relationship with the music is a healthy one, and I'm contributing to it, and you know, I'm creating it, and I'm putting my own spin on it or whatever. And I reckon that people that respond, I'm not so interested if people respond to it at all, even really, but often I find that people really do like it when you're the way that what they're listening to. They're not listening to the notes you play or like the song or the beat or whatever. They're listening. They like the way that you're interacting with the music. Like the music is just a separate thing. Like if you see a busker on the street, you don't go like, I love that guy. You go, I like that song that he's playing, right? So like when or like more specifically, you like the way that he's engaging with that song. You know, if he wrote it or not, you know, like that's what you like when you hear it. So if you're just if I'm kind of despondent and, you know, jaded and tired after, you know, a big summer of gigs or something, and I'm just sort of playing through the motions and like sort of like a typewriter, that's just not going to feel as good for me, and it's not going to play out the same way. It's going to be fine, but it's not going to be impactful or meaningful. You know, it's always got to be a thing of how am I going to connect to the moment here and actually engage with the music, have a relationship with the music. I think that's what people like, you know, I think. Yeah.
And so coming back to when you said that people, you know, as a session musician, people are worried about all these like little details about themselves, how they talk, how they present themselves, do they show up on time, do they have a full-time job, what's their commitment level, all this sort of stuff. Like, do you think someone coming in and trying to present themselves like this facade that they think other people are going to like, do you think that's going to come through the music?
Totally. Yeah. And like, that's, I reckon, that's something that you got to be really careful of too. Like people who come in and have these fronts, you know, like a semi-trailer, they're the ones that, but usually like, you know, people don't want them around either, you know. it's the challenge is music people are mostly wonderful people, but I feel like the best ones are the ones that are just really in tune with like exactly why they're here and what they've got to offer. I think that's the main thing. I think that there's a big expectation to be like to be present, and like you want to be there, for the right reasons, and that can work both ways for sure. Yeah.
Man, I love it. Compared to like speaking to my dad about the scene that he played in the 80s, being like a hair metal musician, playing pubs and stuff like that, and the picture that he painted of the community was like vicious. People sabotaging him before going on stage.
Wow.
And man, just awful stuff. Getting into fist fights. They hated each other. So much rivalry. And it doesn't make sense.
He was in that band Tyrant, right?
Yes.
That was that band Tyrant?
Yeah,
which is like, it's like heavy metal, right? Like,
basically,
is that what they called it? Like hard rock, 80s rock.
I mean, looking back, we call it glam metal now because obviously they like put a lot of attention to their hair, and they wear like leopard skin tights, and they're like basically wearing makeup and shit on stage. But it's just like this sense of like one thing that I've been dislocated from music, especially since COVID. It's taken me a long time to really understand this. It's like you need to exist as part of a community. You mentioned it before, like you want to be part of like when you're talking about playing the role. It's like you know where you fit, and you have to belong to something. And it doesn't make any sense to me that there's people who treat it like a competition to kind of claw and drag people down and make them look bad, sabotage them so you can kind of get ahead. And it's sort of strange, and maybe it sort of makes sense because of the broader like economic system that we exist in. It is kind of a zero-sum game, right? But I don't know. I feel like art is something kind of beautiful. There is that connection. We can elevate each other, and it really is the rising tide that lifts all ships, sort of thing.
Yeah. I think the most successful, healthy little cliques and like music bubbles that. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's in a little bubble, as big or small as it is. I think at the end of the day, the most healthy ones are just the ones where people playing music with their friends, and they're just being good people to one another. And then I think that it gets a bit weird when obviously there's always going to be drama anytime that there's humans in a little community together. There's always going to be an element of that. But I think there's definitely. I mean, I feel like it's probably a very contextual thing. I mean, like when I was in Germany doing like the trad jazz stuff, huge social expectations and boundaries, and really cutthroat. Like no one really had much problem telling you how they feel, and you just sort of have to wear it. And they're German, so they really don't care. And so, and like, over here, it's like everyone is just so chill. Like everyone's just, we're Australians, and like, there's like a really high standard and everything, but often like the best trad players are also like free jazz musicians. That's really unique. I've never seen that in other parts of the world. I feel like it's very contextual about that sort of the healthiness of your community. Is it toxic or is it helpful to you getting what you want from it? If you're in a community where it's like, in Berlin, I was like, working on that trad jazz stuff, I was happy. I had a good relationship with it because I wasn't there to be making friends really. I was there to kind of to learn about the music and play this stuff with people who know a lot more about it than I do, and got what I wanted from it. But I wasn't looking for the community there. I already sort of had that here. But then again, like I reckon if I'd gone there just to sort of exist there and get, or go anywhere and try to get get everything out of one thing, it's tough. You have to put a few more fingers in a few different pies at that point, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, I imagine. I don't know. I'm extrapolating an experience living in Greece as an expat to the Berlin music scene. But I'd be curious if it kind of holds up. So here, as an expat, as I'm going through the world and I'm meeting people from Athens or from Greece, people are very hesitant to invest in a relationship with you if they know that you're a foreigner. So you're probably only going to be here for like a short period of time, even if it's just a few years. It's like, and one of my good mates is Greek. He grew up in Athens, and I had this interesting experience recently where he was sort of hanging out with another guy, an American guy, and they spent a lot of time together. And then all of a sudden, he just like cut ties. I was like, "What happened, man?" And he's like, "Well, he's leaving. He's not coming back to Greece. He's going to New Zealand." And he said to me, "Is like friendship isn't supposed to be something for a short period of time." It's like, I don't want that. So he literally was just like, I'd literally rather not have any contact, not talk to this guy, not see him anymore, just whatever, because he's leaving.
But that's like that's also interesting because that when he said that could also be interpreted as like, I'm going somewhere else, so I want to be friends. But it doesn't matter. I want to be friends forever. It should be a long thing, you know. It could go either way. What are you talking about? Yeah.
It's so strange to me, man. But I wonder if perhaps.
But you know what? That's true. I reckon that's like I totally understand that, and that's like I've experienced that as well. I reckon in Germany or in Europe in general, like it's just there's so many people coming and going culturally. It's probably. I mean, it's hard work. I mean, I've probably sort of perpetrated a bit of that too with visitors. Travelers in Australia, I can't really, but it's less. It's like I feel like it's a lot less common in Australia to be sort of making friends with people over one summer. Like I feel like in Europe, you'd just be constantly meeting a new dude every summer that you only know for 3 months. You never see them ever again. That'd be always happening. That'd be always happening. That very rarely happens here, you know. So I get it. It's fine. But I remember when I was in Germany, it's like, for the first year or so, pretty much everyone was all going like, so when do you go back? And I go like, I don't know how many times I'm going to tell you, I'm not going back. You know, I live here now. You know, and then like you go like, oh, hey man, how you going? How are your kids? And they'd be like, it's like, yeah, they're fine. Is there something wrong? It's like, it's all right. I'm only asking because we're in a band together and we've been playing gigs for like 9 months, you know. Oh yeah, okay, so they're fine. You know, it's an Australian thing. We're just sort of like we're all the same. I think we're all just like coming for the holiday. You know.
Yeah. It's so interesting, man. Because I have that same experience here. Like I want to burrow down a little bit. You know, here you don't ask. I'm sure it's the same in Germany as well. But you don't actually ask how someone is unless you like kind of know them. And you actually want to know.
It's actually a really weird question. When someone pointed that out to me, it's a weird question because like, how are you? It doesn't really make that much sense when you think about it. How am I?
That's funny.
It's an Irish thing, I guess, or like an English old sort of like Anglo-Saxon thing. Oh, how am I? How am I? Yeah, how am I? How?
Dude, you're spitting me
like
up.
How are you going? It's a bit better.
How are you going? Yeah.
Or like how's it going is a bit more abstract. You got to be careful. Usually you got to be careful with your sort of vernaculars, the vernacular kind of colloquial stuff over there. You got to be careful. They're probably not going to understand a single thing. I mean, they usually can't understand. People usually can't understand me in Australia.
Yeah. You're quite mild though, mate. You ain't from the outback or something. Truly, nah, buddy, you
right.
let it wrap it that drain pipe.
Yeah,
I can't even do it anymore, man. I'm losing touch.
I can't do it anymore. We lost it all. Well, actually, I saw a video of us, like not of us, but like because you know we grew up together. There was a video of me when I was 11, and the dad took a little home video, and I can't believe how much my accent has changed.
Really? You're going to have to send that to me, man.
I sound like a little bogan.
Yeah. Oh, Dad, can I have a glass of milk?
Yeah. Can I have a glass of milk? We do this like, we can go play a bit of cricket down in the nets.
Oh, that's hilarious, man.
We're getting distracted. We should be talking about music.
You know.
No, that's all right.
We're going wherever we want to go. I wanted to ask you we're going to start wrapping up soon, I think. I wanted to just ask you a couple of more questions that I was interested about. You said before, and I really love this phrase, listening to your inner muse. So talk to me about that. What does your inner muse sound like? What does it feel like? How do you know that what's whispering to you is your inner muse?
I think it's not so much like there's a pre-existing something telling me what to do so much as I think that like there's this sort of inner childlike sort of version of yourself where you're sort of kind of, I guess, I was writing about this before actually. Let's see if I can find my notes. Yeah, I guess it's like that inner thing. So it's like a like when you're listening to music, you know, that you really like, or like when you're playing music and you're playing stuff that you really like, you kind of wanting to have that. We're searching for that kind of childlike, abandoned, sort of carefree wonder about the music. So when I'm like really kind of, I guess the music is often flows easier, and I connect with it more when I'm kind of trying to be innocent and innocently kind of enchanted by it without any sort of layers of social stuff or guilt or anything to enjoy what I'm just freely allowed to enjoy what I'm allowed to enjoy. You know, I think that's that you've got to follow that feeling. Be honest with yourself about it. And like I feel like a big part of that is of tapping into that, being able to do that, is to just get this skill of try to be unfamiliar with what you're doing. You know, because at the end of the day, I play piano every day. You know, playing this, sometimes it gets tough. It's like man, it feels like I'm in prison. I've got this prison of an instrument where I can only use these fingers here playing on these buttons, and I've got to try to somehow, make a bit of magic here. The best way to do that, to connect with that sort of like childlike sort of wonder, I think, is to just I literally just try to be unfamiliar with the piano, with the song. I try to be unfamiliar with the melody and the song, the melodies that I'm creating, and try to create as much of a sort of cycle of creating something and then simultaneously perceiving it, listening to myself as it's happening, and it's sort of just trying to be curious with it all instead of disconnecting with it. You know, I feel like that's a big thing I've been on. That's a big thing I've been on lately. I've been thinking about a lot, just like trying to be unfamiliar with stuff. It works in life. It's like, you know, driving the same route to work every day. You know, try to be unfamiliar with it. It's going to be a lot easier to sort of be a little happy human in the car. You know.
I think that is absolutely wonderful. And it makes me think of, I read this book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. And it's all about how to, it's a lot of different things, but there was one specific part in this book, which was, it's sort of, it's analogous to what you're saying, right? It was an exercise given by some art professor in, maybe it was, I don't know what school of art it was, but it was a New York college. And the first assignment she gives her students is to go get a little chair, go to a gallery, pick any painting, sit there without a phone, without a laptop, anything, no distractions, for 3 hours, and just stare at that piece of art for 3 hours straight.
Oh wow!
Right, and it's
That's
like
crazy. Yeah.
It's kind of wild. It's like, well, why put yourself through something so grueling? But Oliver Burkeman,
I would love to do that. That sounds great.
Yeah, right.
That's my idea of a fun time.
It actually really appealed to me too, especially like listening to his story about it. I might butcher a little bit because it's been a little while since I read the book, but he talks like at first, you know, the first hour was kind of painful and boring as hell. He's just like, okay, it's like, I think one particular thing that the painting he picked was like three dudes in a barn or something like this. It was just like something really, it wasn't even that like abstract or kind of appealing. It wasn't very colorful. It was like just something so bland and boring, like three farmers in a stable or something. And then after about an hour, he started to like, I don't know, maybe his brain was like, it had so little stimulation that it started finding all this like beautiful nuance and details. It's like, oh, you know, there's like kind of like a shadow it's like painted. It's like a fourth member or a third member or something, and they're kind of like outside of the frame, but intentionally placed there. I'm like, that's really interesting. And then he starts to see their expression in this new light, and it's like, oh, like, the texture of the birds is like actually being repeated in like the texture of his like shirt sleeves. Like I didn't see that before. And it's like, it's this curiosity that is so fascinating. So I tried this. I wanted to apply this to music, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do something similar, but I'm going to lay there. I'm going to put headphones on, and I'm going to put the same song on repeat for an hour. I didn't get to 3 hours. That was too much for me. But I was like, and the song that I chose, weirdly enough, was Taylor Swift's Midnight. I think it's Midnight.
Of all of the trance-inducing songs, I wasn't going to pick Taylor Swift.
No, hear me out. I can't remember the name.
Hey, I think the point of that though is that, like, that it doesn't have to be anything in particular. It's about the lack of stimulation and then your brain will fill in the gaps. You know what? I used to do that too. I used to do that. So there's this meditation exercise that I came across, which is really cool. You should try it. It's very similar to an old piano sort of thing I used to do. So you just say, what you do is you get yourself comfortable, you lie down somewhere, and you just pick a word and you say it over and over and over for 10 minutes. And you know that thing, eventually after a few times, it sounds like a different sound. It doesn't even sound like the word anymore. And then after about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you think, this is just dumb. What am I doing with my day here? But what actually ends up happening is that it's a similar effect maybe when after about 8 minutes or something, it's almost like you don't even feel yourself doing it anymore. In fact, you might stop talking and you don't realize it. But this amazing thing happens for a short period of time right towards the end where there's a timelessness. You're so like entranced, you've kind of hypnotized yourself. And then it's over, and you actually find it really hard to recall what it felt like, or actually even how long time passed when you think back to it. It's really cool. You should try it. And it's an interesting thing on piano. I used to do on piano as a kid. I used to just play one note over and over for like as long as I could and just listen to the note, right? There was one note, it was an A, middle A on the piano that sounded like it was just really in tune. I used to just play that over and over as in time as I could, And then, you sort of like you enter a little bit of a trance-like state. It's good for you, But the mind is like as if you just slow down and give it a chance to do something with itself. There is an innate curiosity inbuilt, and I think that's worth. You've got to feed that. Otherwise, you're constantly just bombarding it with everything, peppering it with too much information.
Yeah,
you don't need to,
Do you think that what you're saying, I think that what you're saying here, this like looking for, like being unfamiliar with the things that I think I have a hypothesis because the last guy that I spoke to, he's also a videographer and a producer. So he works, like he had a YouTube channel, he made travel videos and stuff like this, but now he works as a videographer for corporations, for companies, for people, whatever. And there's a very clear divide for him between like a pleasure project that's for him and a project that he's like being paid to do in terms of like how creatively nutritious that it is. And I wonder, it's interesting because like you said at the very start, it's like you play other people's music in your way. And I wonder, is playing other people's music, I know for some people that would be creatively unfulfilling. Like I met so many people who have different opinions about this. But it sounds like to you genuinely enjoy it. At least that's kind of what I gather. There's still a passion. And is that because you're treating it like this sense of, exploration? What can I learn from this? Like, how is it new? How can it be unfamiliar? Is that how you hedge against that?
I guess so. I guess it's like, I guess it depends. It does depend on the music. Like there's only so much I can sound like myself in a, like a soul band where I have to play a part, Even then I do a little bit, but just try to, play the way that, I play those chords, as best I can. But if it's more like an improvising kind of situation where I'm expected to be soloing and stuff, and I have a bit of artistic license, I guess I'm thinking about it from a standpoint of, well, look, I'm pretty pretty aware of what I can and can't do, and my kind of my piano voice, like how it sounds. And it's like a conversation. It's like how would I'm finding my musical self here in this setting, with this instrumentation, and there is a particular energy, musical environment here that the song has been crafted, someone else has composed. How am I going to converse and be a part of this musical situation? I think that's all it is. I think it's mainly a listening game. All of this stuff. It's just trying as much as I can to hear what is happening and respond to it as naturally as I can, and try not to impose conceptions of what I think it should sound like too much. If someone gets me in to do like a 50s jazz quintet, classic jazz blues solo, I'm not going to just go in there and try to sound like exactly like Wynton Kelly. It's just gonna sound a little bit. I'm gonna choose to put as much of my own color on it as I can within the parameters of how much sort of artistic freedom I get, because then otherwise I won't enjoy myself. And for example, I'm doing this gig on Sundays where it's a New Orleans trad band, and there's a way to play that music. It sounds the way that it does. And I do this I've done it every Sunday for nearly 2 years, and I'm quite vocal about, I'm not super interested in trying to sound like super authentic or anything. I'm going to just be playing the way that I play, and my bandmates welcome it. They encourage me to do it. But I definitely know there are some aficionado jazz hats out there who are like, it's derivative, I don't like it. So yeah, well, I'm trying to do I'm doing what I can here. I've got to satisfy myself. I could. That's the other thing. You could just sit down for a few years and dive into learning that tradition super well and authentically, but it's like there's so many reasons why I wouldn't want to necessarily do that at this stage of my life. One of them is also that there's not a lot of work in it, and I wouldn't be getting that much out of it.
Yeah.
And another one is but mainly is just that it's not really satisfying my kind of creative side.
Yeah, exactly. What's the point if you're not enjoying it then? It just doesn't have value.
Yeah. And that's as we said before, that's what people like anyway. They like to see me enjoying the music and engaging with the way that I'm engaging with it. It's not like, yeah. It's not a jukebox. I'm not a used jazz salesman, as Sam Manning would say. A used jazz salesman. He's like, hey, you remember this?
Yeah.
It sounds like this. Remember? It's like, I don't want to be used. It's like a museum, like museum jazz. Museum jazz. Yeah.
Dude, you've absolutely blown my mind with so many fun analogies and fun things, and I've written down so much that I'm going to be thinking about for weeks to come. Cool. I reckon. All right, so awesome. Two more questions to end this out.
Okay.
Who are you most excited by right now? Musician, artist, director, anything?
Well, Sullivan Fortner comes to mind. I've been thinking about him. He's one of my heroes. He's a jazz piano guy in New York City. From I think he's from Louisiana actually. He's got an amazing piano album that he released called Solo Game. I met him in New York a couple of years ago. He inspired me a lot. We had a great conversation about jazz piano history, and I could go on about it, but I won't. But his record is so cool. It's it's two sides. The first side is him just doing basically Fred Hirsch and Jason Miranda got him in the studio to do I think it was like 4 sets of tunes, just one take each, and they chose 8 or something for the first side. And like all of them, I'm sure were super usable, but they chose these 8 ones. So they're all one take each. It's just they're incredible. And he's kind of using, there's actually if you listen to the record, this is an old jazz thing that they would do, like sort of I reckon from the 90s onwards, often they'll do this thing where the last couple of tracks in the album is kind of like the producers or the artist talking about the album after the album. So I often recommend, if you listen to it, just go straight to the end and listen to Fred Hirsch and Jason Moran talk about what the album's concept is. Then listen to it through. It's going to be really challenging. It was challenging for me, but that's my concept. Is like I have to listen to albums about 10 times or something, and then it starts to kind of sink in. It's really challenging to listen to, but I just think that it's heaps helpful to have that stuff at the end to explain why. It's the concept of it is, because you could. I mean, it's just as moving. It's just as moving not knowing anything about it, and I think that's why they're at the end of the album. To be honest, they're not expecting you to know anything, but it is good to just listen to it a couple of times. Maybe listen to it once without hearing anything about it, and then listen to it another time with that. I think that's the idea.
So it's like the first time I listened to the first time I listened to Captain Beefheart's Trout Mask replica, because it would always float in like the top 100 rock albums of like greatest rock albums of all time. And so I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. And then it's avant-garde, and then you listen to it, and it's just like I can't make heads or tails of it, and it's confusing. And it became a bit of a meme for a little while when I was living with friends. But then I went back. I still haven't listened to it all the way through. Like, it's actually a little bit too challenging for me, to be honest. I might be able to stomach it now, but like knowing the context, the story around that really helped me appreciate at least the fact that it exists at all. Not so much the music itself, but you need the context. But sometimes it's nice to go and completely try.
Yeah, I always treat those challenging albums as a challenge. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to listen to this until I start enjoying it. And I'm yet to find one that I actually, I will end up liking it. There's another one. You want to know the most challenging one I've ever listened to?
Yeah, man, I would actually love that.
Okay, so check this out. It's a just intonated piece by it's a string quartet called the Kepler Quartet, Keplar, I think. Written by Ben Johnston, who is a modernist string composer who lived on a cemetery, and he wrote just intonated music. If you don't know what just intonated music, there's a good video by Adam Neely. He explains all about it, that's a tough listen. That one. That's a tough listen, but I listen to it a lot, and it's called the Kepler Quartet. The actual album that's a good question. I think they only made one, and it took them 20 years to make it, because it took so long for them to learn the songs, because it's so detailed and specific. They're all on tour with playing Mozart every year in the big commercial orchestras. Every year, they only had a bit of time each year to actually learn the piece. Ben Johnston, Kepler Quartet.
He's got a few albums on Spotify.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking of is the one with that picture of a church on the front. I think it's called New Worlds or something.
Church on the front. Okay.
Wait, hang on, here he is. String quartets.
6, 7, and 8.
6, 7, and 8.
String quartet, 6, 7, and 8. All right, well, I'll give it a go, man.
Yeah. Good luck, brother. That's the hardest one I've ever fucking listened to. That's hard stuff, man. I'd be interested to see how you go. You're probably just going to think this is just complete bollocks. Why would anyone listen to it? But I think that after a few goes, it doesn't sound wrong anymore.
Okay, it doesn't sound wrong anymore, man. I'm so curious. I'm going to chuck it on.
You'll see what I mean when you start listening to it.
Cool.
You'll see what I mean.
All right, last question, man. Where can people find you and interact with you if they want to see what you do, interact with Kade Brown?
Instagram's probably the only way these days for me. Yeah. I'll try as much as I can to update people with what I'm up to there.
Cool.
Kade_Brown is my handle.
At Gmail.
at gmail.com. That's not my email.
Kade_Brown at Instagram. Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Awesome, Andy. Thanks
you
for
so
that.
much.
That was a fun chat. What the
That was
hell?
fun. I had fun, man.
Cool.
I learned so much. Thank you. Thanks for being there.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to. I'll see you in Athens soon.
You will. I'll show you around. We'll take you around. We'll go eat some spaghetti and we'll get sunburned.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some spanakopita and some frappe.
Yeah, I might get a spanakopita.
I'm gonna turn into a souvlaki. Oh, awesome!
No better fate, my friends.
I can't wait. Hey, it's less than a month. Actually, it's been a month away. All right.